Welcome back in. Today we're going to be talking about some of my favorite must-draft quarterbacks for the 2023 season. Now, first off, I just have to say, we're seeing some crazy ADP out there right now for some of these quarterbacks. Right now on ESPN, Patrick Mahomes is currently going 11th overall. We're now seeing quarterbacks go in the first round. And we're just seeing 5 quarterbacks going inside the top 3 rounds of the draft. You're seeing Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson, and Joe Burrow all going inside the top 3 rounds of the draft. What are we doing, people? Like, I'm all for kind of getting a quarterback a little bit early this year, but there's no shot of taking a quarterback in the first round. None, zero, zilch, nada. Listen, for the longest time, it was always for quarterbacks. We always talked about waiting on quarterback, late round quarterback strategy, right? Now, the market has gotten very efficient and it's gotten a lot smarter, right? But now we're getting crazy. I mean, we're seeing quarterbacks go in the first round. That is way too much. There's no shot in a single quarterback league you should ever be taking a quarterback in the first round. Yes, the advantage that the top 3 quarterbacks last year gave you was obviously massive. But year to year, things change so much to be able to sit here and invest a first round pick in a quarterback, ridiculous. So today I'm going to be talking about 5 of my favorite quarterbacks that are going later than that in the 4th round and beyond that you should be looking to draft. So let's just get right into it. First up, we're going to talk about Justin Herbert. He's currently going 43rd overall or QB6. Despite his poor play last year, he still finished as QB 11 overall, but QB 15 fantasy points per game. Now, this is a lot of it to do because we saw a lot of injuries. We had Keenan Allen and Mike Williams missed multiple games last season, which didn't really help. However, the Chargers were still 2nd pass attempts per game and 4th in pace of play. That's not really going to change with new offensive coordinator Kellen Moore coming in to manage this team. They're going to continue. We saw the Cowboys last year were top 5 in pace of play last year. So I don't think anything's going to change here in that regard. He was still 2nd in passing yards, 6th in air yards, and 8th in passing touchdowns last year. But where we really saw a dip was 25th in yards per attempt, 32nd in air yards per attempt. This was very much a deke and dunk type offense, right? Even though he was 15th in deep ball completion percentage last year. But a lot of it's just because of the guys that were injured and the situation they were in. Now they went out and drafted Quentin Johnson in the first round. That is going to be a big difference here for this offense. Now you have 3 reliable pass catchers to go along with Gerald Everett and Austin Eckler in this offense. I love Justin Herbert, and he has the same type of ceiling as some of the top 3 guys that are going, right? I think he can get close to those guys. I think he can get back to being a guy who throws for 40 touchdowns. He was the QB3 the year prior in fantasy points per game. So Justin Herbert, I think, is a very tremendous value currently where he next up, let's move over to Justin Fields, QB7, 47th overall. Now, if I said Justin Herbert has that ceiling, Justin Fields 1,000% has that ceiling. We saw him last year. He had almost 1,200 rushing yards last year and 8 rushing touchdowns. He averaged 20.5 fantasy points per game last season. He was 4th in red zone accuracy. He was 16th in deep ball accuracy as well. But he was 27th in pass attempts, 19th in deep ball attempts, and 28th in red zone attempts last year. Only had 2,200 passing yards and 17 passing touchdowns. But I think there's a lot to like here. They added DJ Moore. They invested in the offensive line with Darnell Wright, as well as adding Nate Davis to play right guard for them. They also drafted Tyler Scott and Roschon Johnson at running back. So there's a lot more weapons here. And I do think, I know it's become almost like a cliche narrative now to say this, but I do think you're going to see with DJ Moore and the other additions they've made and the improvements to the offensive line that he is going to take this next step. We have to remember he was right there with Trevor Lawrence coming out at college, playing at Ohio State. I know it's easy to call him like he's just a runner and that's all that he is, and I think that's vastly misguided. I think he can definitely throw the football. He's one of the better deep ball throwers in the league. I think adding DJ Moore opens up this offense. They still have Chase Claypool and Darnell Mooney as well, Cole Kmet. There's a lot to like here with this offense, and I think Justin Fields take this big step forward. And if he does in that passing department, and we see him get inside that top 15 pass attempts, and we see his passing numbers go up with what he's still going to be able to do as a runner, because he was ridiculous last year, 0.82 fantasy points per drop back last season, which is first among all quarterbacks. There is a ton to like of Justin Fields. His ceiling is the QB1 this year for sure. So Justin Fields and Justin Herbert are the 2 guys that I would much rather pass on those top 4 or 5 quarterbacks that are coming off the board in the earlier rounds. Load up on my running back, and wide receivers there through those rounds, and then come back and get Justin Fields or Justin Herbert in the 4th or 5th round. I love doing that. I think that is a much more smart strategy. Let everybody else go crazy and draft a quarterback in the 1st round or 2nd round. You wait a little bit longer and get one of these other guys. Now, if drafting a quarterback that high isn't on your to-do list and you miss on these guys, let's talk about some guys that are going a little later. I thought about talking about some of the low-hanging fruit like Trevor Lawrence and Deshaun Watson, 2 quarterbacks that I do really like. but I feel like they've been covered a lot, and I just don't think I need to really get too much into that. So I want to dig a little further into the weeds a little bit. Aaron Rodgers is somebody that nobody really wants to draft this year. Kind of he's currently going at 111th overall. Now I get it. A lot of people are saying that he's dust and he's not the same guy anymore that he used to be. I don't buy it. I think this is just kind of a toxic situation up there in Green Bay. He seems to be living his best life now. And I think overall, this is just a better offense, right? You getting to play with Garrett Wilson, who is an absolute baller. He was still 10th in pass attempts per game last season. He was 11th in passing yards and 7th in passing touchdowns. So, some of his accuracy wasn't the greatest. He was 14th in average air yards per attempt. He was also 20th in deep ball completion percentage, but he was still 15th in pressure, 5th in red zone completion percentage. But now the interesting part here, I think, is going to be, the pace, right? Because last season, the Jets were 6th in pass attempts per game and 5th in pace of play. And that is with really shitty quarterbacks, like Zach Wilson and Joe Flacco. And now you insert Aaron Rodgers, but I just don't think you're going to see that pace of play be the same. We know Aaron Rodgers takes his time, survey, the defense, what they're doing, and run the clock down. So I don't think this team is going to be nearly as quick as they were last year when they were 5th in pace of play. I just don't think that's going to be the case. But I think the weapons are certainly there. We already talked about Garrett Wilson. We know him. I think he has a shot to be a wide receiver 1 this year. They added McCole Hardman to kind of give them a player who you can get him out in space, get him the ball in his hands. The guy's electric after the catch. Then Alan Lazard they brought over, Corey Davis, Tyler Conklin still here. There's a lot of weapons here in this offense. So Aaron Rodgers, I do not think he's cooked. I think he's going to come out and have something to play. And I think that he is going to finish as a top 10 fantasy quarterback this year, but he's being drafted outside that range. So I really like Aaron Rodgers. And I think he's somebody that you can kind of pair with another quarterback that we'll talk about here in a minute. Let's keep it moving. Let's talk about Geno Smith, QB 15. Why the disrespect for Geno Smith as good as he was last year? I guess this is more of I don't think he's going to do it again type situation, but he was fantastic last year. He was 9th in pass attempts per game, 11th in pace of play for this offense last year, which was kind of surprising for a Pete Carroll-led offense. Now, hey, maybe it was Russell Wilson that was holding this offense back because, Geno Smith balled out last year. He was 8th in passing yards, 4th in passing touchdowns. He was 9th in yards per attempt, 8th in adjusted air yards per attempt, 8th in fantasy points per game. He was 4th in true completion percentage, 5th in deep ball completion percentage, and he was also 8th in rushing yards, but all while being 18th in carries. Now they went out and just added to this, drafting Jackson Smith-Njigba in the first round, who was arguably the best rookie wide receiver coming into this year's draft, to pair with DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. I think they're telling us what they want to do. They're going to continue to throw at a high rate. I think Geno Smith, QB 15, 116th overall, is just disrespectful. I don't really get it. So I love taking a shot at him as well, because if you want to draft this next guy, I think you're going to want at least an early season starter to pair with this guy. And I'm not a big advocate for drafting two quarterbacks. I'm just not. But, with Anthony Richardson, who's the next guy I want to talk about, Anthony Richardson, the sky's the limit, right? We continue to pound away at this. And I've been talking about this for years, that running quarterbacks is the way that you want to go. Guys that can pick up yardage on the ground provide such a safe floor on a week-to-week basis because of what they can do with their legs. Justin Fields is a perfect example of that. He was terrible as a passer last year. 2,200 passing yards and 17 touchdowns for Justin Fields, but he still was a top 5 fantasy quarterback for most of the season last year because of that. So Anthony Richardson is an absolute electric playmaker. 6'4", 244 pounds, but we call him Cam Newton. But Cam Newton ran like a 4.6 40. This man ran a 4.43 40-yard dash. That's like Vernon Davis with an arm, right? That's what this man is. It is ridiculous amount of athleticism that this dude brings to the table. Now, he had 2,500 passing yards, 17 touchdowns, and 654 rushing yards last year at the University of Florida. And he's one of the most accurate deep ball passers, which I think is going to help somebody like Michael Pittman, who was really missing that aspect of his game last year with Matt Ryan and company in town. They also drafted Josh Downs in the 3rd round. Alec Pierce is still there, who brings a lot of speed and is actually a good deep ball receiver as well. Then you have Jelani Woods. Now, the thing with Anthony Richardson, we don't know if he's going to start the season. I think he's going to. Shane Steichen talked a lot about over the offseason. That's the best way to get these guys to learn is on the job, and he has some familiarity to this. Obviously, he coached Jalen Hurts. He also coached Justin Herbert. So, he has some familiarity with rookie quarterbacks. So I think he's in good hands. And Anthony Richardson could actually absolutely be a baller on the ground. And where he's going, QB 16 or 120th overall, he is absolutely free. But I think if you're going to do this, you're going to draft Anthony Richardson just to kind of see how he's going to play out to start the year. I do think, pairing him with a later round guy like Geno Smith or Aaron Rodgers, I think is a smart way to go. So I love Anthony Richardson. He has truly top 5, top 6, top 7 upside this season as a rookie. I think he's going to start the year. I don't think it's going to be Gardner Minshew, but we'll see. So, with that being said, those are kind of the guys that I really wanted to hit on. I think those are the ones that make the most sense for drafting. Yeah, you can talk about some other quarterbacks like I didn't mention. Like I said, I think Tua Tagovailoa is kind of an interesting option as well. He's more of a top 10 guy. Deshaun Watson, I have a QB9. Trevor Lawrence, a QB8. Really, that pocket of Herbert, Fields, Deshaun Watson. Those are the quarterbacks that I'm really going to be looking to target. And then if you want to wait a little bit later, you have the guys like Kirk Cousins, Jared Goff, your more pocket passers who I think are very safe to week options. They're not going to have that ceiling that you're going to get from a Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes or Jalen Hurts, but they could certainly be guys that can bridge a gap on a week-to-week basis. And then if you don't have to spend that early draft capital to really be able to load up your team, because people are really taking a big gamble on Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes and Jalen Hurts, they're going to be able to replicate that crazy production that they did this past season, where the last year we really saw a lot of quarterbacks kind of falter, and it really wasn't the same what we're typically used to. Usually there's a much closer gap between the QB1 to QB12. And so let me know in the comment section below what quarterbacks you're looking to draft in this upcoming season, and we'll see you on the next one.